Hey, welcome back everyone. So in today's video I want to talk about making adjustments to proportions and moving the limbs around. So we're going to work on this one in the bottom middle that's soft erased, and I'll just talk about that. Just so for context, the other ones were a bit of warm-ups, a bit of using the symmetry tool. So I like drawing different characters like this guy on the left kind of standing there very stiff, just to practice a variety of proportions, and then I'll move over to changing arms and legs so it's not so symmetrical and things like that. And it's just a fun way to warm up and practice. But I figured for today's video, it would be helpful to show you when you get into a sketch like this, how you might think about maneuvering arms and legs, because it's always a tricky thing, right? So with this guy, I just wanted a leaned over pose, doing some kind of eerily, creepily, I don't know, like pointing thing, is what I was kind of imagining. And then, I drew the arm way too big and it looks very straight up and down to the body. So I figured that would be a good opportunity to show you how I would start making changes or something like that. I also feel like the forearm over here, I'll start here, is too small. And also when you're foreshortening a forearm like this, a good technique is just to kind of throw in some of these ovals, these half ovals basically, connect them on the sides, and then find the opening, and you can kind of maneuver it from there. And obviously the more you contort it and you bring it up this way, you're going to need to also change the bicep. I tend to think of these like wrapping lines, if I've mentioned in a lot of different videos, right? And so if you were to carry those all the way over, you would get the oval-like version of it, but you just wouldn't see through to the other side, because if you draw them like that, sometimes they can get a little confusing to look at. So sometimes I'll just do these half ones. Other times I'll draw really lightly and just kind of spiral through it. But just try that out. It can be a helpful way to start to envision and get a feeling for foreshortening. And I'll soft erase this way back. And I'm using Sketchbook Pro. I'm using, just so everybody that is wondering, I'm using a Huion Canvas 22 Plus. It was actually gifted to me by that company. I did a review video on it. It's a really good device, and I've been wanting to draw in Sketchbook Pro again, so that's why I pulled back to this device. I'm like, you know what, this is one of my old school favorites to draw on. So I know I don't draw on it as much these days, but I figured I'd bring it back. A little retro, little throwback time. Is it Thursday? No, it's not a Thursday. Darn it, I could have said Throwback Thursday, but it's not a Thursday. Okay, so, just like that, and I might continue to mess with this arm. Again, I don't want it to be too far up, but I figured something like this, and I would play around with the scale of it, because generally the bigger you make this, the more it's going to help bring it closer to the viewer. And so we got to play around with that concept as well. Also, the wrist area, it's good to really box this in first, like this. So I tend to draw that with an oval, but really it's a better representation of it to draw it as a box. And you'll see in a lot of the anatomy books that you probably have on your shelf, they tend to do that. So there's that. Now for the hand, let's say, an easy hand would be just to bring it down like this, use a wedge shape, and then figure out. I usually use like these little stickman versions of the fingers to figure out the gesture, something like that. But that's a bit too easy, and I don't want to do that just because I know it's me not challenging myself at all, to do that one. Really, what's a little bit trickier of a hand pose, but it's still not that bad. It still has certain benefits. Is like draw the hand where you bring it up. It probably looks a little more natural. And so I'll figure out kind of the bottom edge of the palm. That's what this line right here is. And then as I bring it up, I'll just kind of do something like this. See that? So I'm boxing it in again. I'm making it taper as it goes away from us a little bit. And that's probably a bit too much, but I'm just trying to think of that foreshortening, I guess, of the hand. And then I can do the same thing with the fingers. You can get really specific and do all three segments. I typically don't, unless it's really specific hand pose. Maybe I'm making like the claw, you know. But other than that, I'll just do something like this. I usually bring the center two together a little more, and then I'll have the pinky drop down, you know, a little bit in no man's land. That's how the pinky and the thumb are, right? They just kind of do their own thing. So just like that, I can get a basis of a hand gesture. And you see it's messy, but I could get in there and I could figure out the knuckles. I could use these arcs to place the knuckles. But again, I really don't feel the need to do that. I feel like this right here gives me the structure and the gesture that I need to refine it. I'll just do a quick cleanup and show you what I mean. So something like this. I will go, maybe go for a silhouette drawing now. I'll mix up a little bit of shape. So I like using ovals for the thumb. And you get kind of this webbing from here on the side a little bit. I think that looks a bit odd, so I'm going to leave that out for now. I generally use cylinders for the fingers. And then I usually start from the front one back, I think. I can't remember now. Do I? What do I usually do? I don't know that matters. But I guess what it is, the reason why I look at it like that is certain poses, I have certain probably processes, you know, ways that I work through it. Certain poses are just easier, and then I don't think as much about it. And other ones I'm like, uh-oh, I got to really, really focus here. You know, hands are tricky, but I would just do something like this. And I generally will draw them, you know, 2 or 3 times when I'm trying to get a really good hand pose. And then there's times I got to pull reference. There's times I got to take pictures of my own hands. It's a stressful life as an artist, people. Okay, so no, it's really not. Well, it shouldn't be. There's times it is. And actually, let me bring that to my next point here. That I wanted to say. Sorry that I haven't been bringing you as much content. I'm planning on doing more than ever. I'm hopeful and striving for that. The reason I haven't is I got sick, and you know, I normally don't get sick. I mean, very rarely, and yeah, I was kind of sick for a good 2 weeks or so. It really knocked me out, and then also, you know, it's just been a bit stressful trying to figure out where I'm going to go from here as far as my whole business of, you know, teaching and YouTubing and all that good stuff. But I just want to let everybody know that even though I can sound a bit, I don't want to sound negative or discouraging at this point, but I do want to let everybody know that to me, that's when we grow the most. That's when we develop, and we it's basically our time to practice our ability to be hard workers, which to me has always served me greatly throughout my life. I think that it's something that we underestimate a lot, and then we just kind of go, you know, all these external factors, and there are those, don't get me wrong, and I'm experiencing those now, but there's also the part where, hey, you know what, hard times make you stronger, and I've always believed that. I really do. It's like, do we want hard times? Heck no. You don't want it to all be good and gravy and all that, but the good and gravy part makes us lazy. It makes me lazy. I don't know about you. I'm just saying it makes me lazy. So I try to zero back in on that idea. Hey, it's just that part where I have to work out harder, you know, to see some gains. Like I always compare it to working out because it's the same concept. Like you don't see gains from sitting on the couch, right? You have to work out, and that's where you develop. That's where you challenge your muscle to grow to that next level. Or not fade away. If you're an older person, like I'm getting to that point, like you gotta do it just to not make losses at a certain point. I'm not quite there, but you know, it's coming. It's coming for all of us. It's coming for all of us. All right. Anyways, I know I'm distracting or my ADD's kicking in, but I just want to give everybody an update because I do feel not say I feel entitled. No, I shouldn't feel entitled. I feel obligated to you guys because you guys have supported this channel, and that's where a lot of my my business has come from and developed from. So I got to be entirely thankful to everybody here that's supported the channel and keep making content for you and keep you posted about what's going on. Like not just disappear and be like, thanks for everything, everybody. Bye-bye. That would be rude. Okay, so back to what we're doing. Sorry for, but I had to give the update. So the other arm is basically, like I said, it's too straight. So if I went out from here, and it doesn't get any more straight than that. So it's real straight to camera. And I think at first it felt like that would be the right choice, but let me see how I can improve this and hopefully show you how you might adjust this and make something more interesting, but the same concept. Because that's the other thing I'm always thinking, like when I do these sketches, yeah, I want to maneuver it and make it look cooler, but I also don't want to deviate from the original idea because I can't draw that thing. You know what I'm saying? Like I think here I just went way too simple, and it showed too parallel to the camera. But the other thing is that when you make these changes, it's really easy to get caught up into defaulting back to what you're good at, and then you don't ever get those cool shots you're going for. Like part of what you have to do here, I think, is envision the concept, then go for it. And sometimes you just got to work through it, and then you might have to pull reference and work through it, whatever. But you can't give up on every shot just because you can't draw it, basically. So what I'm doing here, you see I added the cylinders. So the cylinders always help you to direct it, the openings for the cylinders. So this is the opening, not us seeing through it. I always wonder if you guys can quite see what I'm doing here. So the areas where we could see into the cylinder are here and here. And obviously the more that cylinder turns and becomes a circle, it's coming towards us, right? Now remember what I said here about the form. It really should be a rectangular opening like this. But what I did is I tried to turn it where I'm trying to get the effect that the form is now, instead of it going like this, it's coming towards us and the opening's right there. Hopefully that makes sense. It's just not so parallel to the camera or our view, because when that happens, it takes something and makes it less interesting. It's like, even like this character top left, I was just practicing anatomy and proportions, but it looks super boring because it's so flat. I mean, it looks really flat because he's just parallel to our view. Where hopefully even the sketch of this female character should look more interesting because there's some dynamic flow in there. Arms are different. This arm's way long, whatever. And even this pose up here, there's a lot of symmetry in that torso, but then I changed just the legs and it started to look more interesting. So anyways, just keeping in mind that when you start to tilt these things, it generally will make the art more dynamic. So the other thing to do this is to really make sure that we see that the form is in front of the bicep. Now, I don't think if I was to hold my arm up to a mirror, as I often do, love doing that, I'm pretty sure that my form would not look like it's going in front of the bicep. But for this shot, I would probably take advantage of that and do it anyways. I'm going to test it. I might not, but I guess it depends on if I can't really get that feeling that the arm's tilted, I'd probably use that as a device. Again, I think that realistically, the camera would have to be like over here somewhere for it to look like that. Like we'd have to have like our camera would have to be, it's supposed to be a camera, way over there for the form to actually pass in front of the bicep. Let's try it the other way just to see if it, always gotta check this stuff real quick. So bicep, a little muscle in there, tricep. Let's just go back this way, right? Okay. And so what would probably happen is something more like this. Now let's see. This is tilted, so the flexors, right? Grips, flexors, not grippers. The flexors go to the, like the palmaris longest, so it goes to the palm side, which would be over here. You get those little tendons in your wrist, right? So that all goes back to here. This is on the other side. So it'd probably look a little bit more like that. And I don't think that looks bad. Yeah, I would probably do it like this. So I probably wouldn't do it the other way. Forgive me. But there are times that I do that method. So I just want you to be aware that there are times that I will, especially for simplifications, there are times I will just draw something where it's clearly in front of the other segment of the arm or leg the head over the neck or whatever, because it helps the perspective in the sense of foreshortening. So I really do think in comics, like, it's best to not think of rules and other than, or not rules, but rather, if it looks cool, then go with it. Like, I don't know, that's always that's always served me well. Like, if I think it looks cool, I'm just gonna roll with it. And I will catch a lot of heat. There's times people really critique my work and they're like, dude, that looks weird. Why would you do that? Because I think it looks cool. Usually don't write that back, but that's what I'm thinking. All right, so now, mind you, I'm not trying to say don't take constructive criticism, because that's if it's correct, if it's good criticism, you best take it, because you just can't grow without it. But there is also a time where you got to say, you know what, I drew it because I like it, and that's the way I like it, and I'm happy. Yeah, it's a bit of balance there. Can't take every bit of criticism, I'll tell you that. Okay, so, all right, so for the hand here, and I'll bring this one to a close because it's already, 16 minutes, that flew by. Okay, so for this hand, I wanted that creepy kind of thing like this. I'll just start with so it's a mix. I get a little bit of structure in there. Let me push this back. So a little bit of structure. I kind of did the same thing. I started with the bottom shape of the palms. I think the thumb placement's going to be tricky for me on this one, so maybe I'll get that going. And then I think the fingers would curve away from us this way. Let's try that. So, middle finger would probably be about here, ring finger, pinky. There needs to be an arc there, obviously. They can't be too aligned. Kind of want the pointer finger pretty long. Gives that kind of eerie vibe. And maybe clenching the other fingers a bit more. So I don't know if that'll work. So a lot of times I can tell based on the gesture, but this one just looks like a hot mess. But again, hopefully you can see that there is a process that I'm taking. I'm not just scribbling. Here, let me go back on the placement of I think I started going crazy there. So even this, if you wanted to put a center line, but it has to be a curved center line. Okay, it can't be straight across. And then you could take and put, a point, and a point, if that helps you. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I guess some of this is like you got to be able to do what helps you and doesn't confuse you. And see, if I immediately put that finger where I think it should go, which obviously that's where it's got to go, is that it covers those other points a little bit. But then I just have to draw through it. And that's where these little stick person fingers can be beneficial. So try that. And then for the thumb, I feel like it would come out towards us more. So I'm gonna have to play with that part of it. Or I could probably drop it down. That would probably look kind of creepy, right? That's probably what I do most of the time, but it looks weird in some shots because we're just typically not making these types of hand gestures as much. Unless you're a creepy old man, at a Dunkin' Donuts that, somebody cut them off at a Dunkin' Donut. I don't know. Sorry, not implying that anybody at Dunkin' Donuts is creepy and old. Because I love Dunkin' Donuts and I am a fan. I'm like one of the weird people that like Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. Like you'd think the two wouldn't cross over, but very different clientele base. But I like them both. Because I'm just a fan of coffee. And there's times I don't like paying $9 for a cup of coffee, so I go to Dunkin' Donuts, where it's way cheaper. All right, so let's see here. So here I can just keep adding the little cylinders for the fingers, and I'm just tucking each one behind the next, obviously aligning it. I'm keeping the alignment of the knuckles in mind as I do this. And also with the cylinder approach with these fingers, if you notice, I'm bowing those cylinders out at the knuckles at the same time I draw them. I always think of this one video I watched with Todd McFarlane, and he was explaining fingers like the bones of fingers like peanuts, overlapping peanut shapes, and it always just stuck with me. So do that. You just don't want to draw if they're too cylindrical, it's going to look a bit weird. You got to get those spherical lumps of knuckles. And if you're trying to make something look more eerie, then you want to give them like that really, almost like arthritis kind of, like, the old hands kind of look. So that's another good thing to practice, really, is just pull up some old hands. And again, I hate to keep comparing that to creepy and eerie, but it does work. Yeah, I'm sounding like I'm really bashing age, and that is not the case here, folks. We're all getting there. But yeah, so it's the thumb's still giving me some trouble, so I'm gonna erase that back and try again. The thumbs are like I'm all thumbs with thumbs, as I've said. It's like my Achilles heel on drawing hands. I struggle to see the placement of thumbs, especially when you bring out foreshortening. So anytime it's coming towards us a little bit more, it's like my mind just freezes. But again, that's that's a good time to sit back and draw a bunch of hand gestures, a bunch of basic hand poses. I really suggest too, if you struggle with hands like I can at times, stop what you're doing, and you don't need to draw these ultra refined hands. I mean, you can if you're like trying to get better at wrinkles and folds and things like that, shadowing. But if you're just not understanding the base structure, do the very simplified versions of them, almost gestural, or start with your gestures at first, and then a base simplified structure. You're going to get a lot more logged in. It's a lot more important for you to do that to get past the part you're at. So that right there is how I would mess with that hand. I would actually increase the size. And since we're running out of time, I'm just going to take a quick shortcut here because, yeah, time she is precious. No, yes, oui, no, oui. Okay, so let's see, something like that. I just want the hand to be bigger. I feel like big hands look cool on the characters. And that's how I'd work through it. And that's how I'd shift some of this. And I would just keep going, right? I mean, the chin's funky. The shoulder over here could be more, I feel like the upper arm needs to be adjusted now. But that's my process. I just keep going and maneuvering and tweaking. Checking it from a distance is good, obviously. I feel like this arm is too big now compared to the other one. But like I mentioned, that's probably why I feel the need to go back now. Let me do it real quick and change the proportions here. So yeah, I'm just constantly adjusting proportions because I don't see those very well. And I think that's why I initially started with just this guy to the left there. I need to practice more and more proportions. So I'll bring you more content on that. In fact, I was thinking about sharing a proportions sheet, and maybe I can put that in my my Gumroad YouTube files section. Let me know if you guys would like to see that, where I just make a variety of proportions. It'd probably just be the standing characters, like the old Marvel. Remember those Marvel superhero sheets with all their stats? But I just do a variety of proportions like that. We can do front, side views, back views, whatever. I feel like those do help, but more than anything, you got to draw them out. Do like 8 heads tall, 9 heads tall, 10 heads tall, just whatever, just a variety. Do your little dwarven characters like 5 heads tall or something. And and just get that variety of proportions going. I draw a little bit too much big bulky characters, and I got to stop doing that. I got to get some overweight characters, some skinny characters. So I can put all that on a proportion sheet. Let me know if you're into that. So at any rate, thanks so much for tuning in and watching this video. Sorry it's been so long. More content's on the way. Hopefully this drawing process of working through this character gave you some ideas. I would love to know what you think, as well as what you'd like to see in the future. Thanks so much for supporting the channel. Good luck with the art, and bye for now.